All right, welcome back to EHS 230 Recreational Health. And one of the first areas that we focus in on is recreational water quality. So we're talking about swimming pools, we're talking about swimming at the beach, at the lake, or maybe even swimming at the beach at like Daytona or Gulf Shores or wherever you're going to go. So how do we test the water? How do we make sure that the water is safe? What can we do to protect ourselves? So we're going to cover this a little bit more. I've got a picture of an E. coli plate up there, and we'll talk more about why even E. coli might be helpful for informing our decision making. So the first thing we got to talk about are what makes something a recreational water illness. And often recreational water illnesses, when people get exposed to elevated levels of certain microbes in the water or elevated levels of certain chemicals in the water, or even coming off the water into the air, we might see some of these different problems. So nausea, upset stomach, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach cramps, those are often from maybe having maybe ingested or been exposed to too many harmful microorganisms. Occasionally some microorganisms can cause sore throat, or they can get in your ear and cause an earache, swimmer's ear. Some cyanobacteria can cause skin rash. There are also some chemicals in swimming pools that can maybe cause skin rash. There's some bacteria like Pseudomonas from hot tubs that can cause skin rash. There's itchy eyes that can be caused by certain chemicals like chlorine. Also itchy eyes from certain toxins produced by cyanobacteria, and maybe even certain viruses like adenovirus. So there's a variety of things that can cause recreational water illnesses. So I'm going to stop here and I'll pull up a video from the CDC to introduce you a little bit more from the recreational water illness perspective. This video was the CDC recreational water illness champion video. They had a little competition. So let's watch this video.
116 Queens Point. Roger that. Yeah, been doing this about 10 years. Unfortunately, the hazards of RWI, that's recreational water illnesses, aren't really well known to the public. So, that's why the task force was assembled. And it looks like today we will be addressing a domestic call. Sir, step away from the pool.
What is it?
We've received an anonymous report that you've been swimming with a mild case of diarrhea.
Who told you that?
A concerned individual and that discarded gas station sushi roll wrapper. Sir, you should never swim with diarrhea.
If so, there's chlorine in the pool. It'll kill the germs.
You might want to know that chlorine actually does not kill all germs instantly. And actually, have any of you had pool water in your mouth? That's a citation, sir. You should never have pool water in your mouth. It's very dangerous. Yeah, we're going to take him downtown, have him processed, but he'll also be informed. And that's what this is all about. That's what we're here for.
Okay, so in that video, you were introduced to the acronym RWI, which is the short name for the recreational water illnesses that the CDC uses. Now, you also saw kind of the joking humor of a little bit of an overzealous enforcement, but what were the types of things that they were emphasizing that are really important? So 1, people shouldn't be swimming with a recent history of diarrhea. Number 2, never ever put water in your mouth. When you're swimming in a pool or a lake, you shouldn't be putting the water in your mouth. It can happen accidentally, but you shouldn't do it intentionally. So what can we do and what things should we think about in terms of how to be safe? So we know that around pools, things can be slippery. You can have slips and falls. Also, shallow water, careless diving, and those kinds of things. Those can lead to head traumas, but the same is true, sometimes not fully appreciated with like swimming beaches where the water clarity is sometimes not clear. You may not know about hidden hazards below the surface, rocks or old fencing or something like that that could be down there. The water may be cloudy. You may not be able to see. Also, if a person has cuts already, they might not want to go into the water with those cuts because there's microbes in the water that could potentially more easily infect that person. And then we have to be very mindful of sunburns. So sunburns are particularly common among people going to swimming beaches, and sunburns are also the #1 risk factor for skin cancer. So at an area lake not far from Cincinnati, at the public swimming beach, among 947 people that went to the beach, 18% of the swimmers had new sunburn. So that's a lot. almost 1 in 5. When we look more into the article, we can see that there were certain times and days that were worse for people. So when the UV radiation index was greater than 9.9, so essentially over 10, and it was like 27, 28 degrees C. So in Fahrenheit, we're talking about, when you start getting up over 80 some odd degrees Fahrenheit, 22% of the people that went to the beach would end up with sunburn. So it's a significant amount of people. And then if you're swimming for more than, like 3 hours, 24% of them had sunburn. If you arrive early in the day, so you're spending most of the day at the beach, almost 27% of them had sunburn. So that's a lot. Almost, you're getting over 1 in 4 people getting sunburn, especially on those sunny days. So, and here I want to also just go back to the fact that you have to be careful about physical hazards. So we know those things. So from a safety perspective, people in safety often work more with the physical hazards. So in environmental health, we're often dealing with those hidden hazards. One could be ultraviolet light. Sometimes, though, we have biological and chemical hazards that are not always apparent. So those are what result in the beach advisories. The most common symptoms of illness that are from like swimming that are from those biological factors is diarrhea. And it could affect as much as 8% of the population during the summer months, as well as eye and respiratory irritation. So some questions here. Look at this graph. Which time of the year has the most amount of recreational water illnesses? So the majority of recreational water illnesses associated with outbreaks are in the summer months, May, June, July, August, with the peak being in, as you would expect, July. The black coloration here that is kind of the dominant figure is with AGI. So what is AGI? And that represents acute, meaning brief, gastrointestinal illness. And then the next one, the blue, these are skin-related recreational water illnesses. And then these are ARI, acute respiratory illnesses, then some neurological issues mixed, and then the obscure one, which is like leptospirosis. So where does this diarrhea risk come from? It may sound nasty, but people that share water, whether it be like in pools or whether it be lakes, we share water, especially with a lot of people, and especially if there's a lot of toddler-age children or diapered children, fecal accidents are common. And the average amount of feces per person that's on them is about, 0.14 grams, which is a gram is a paper clip. So this is maybe 1/6 of a paper clip per person. But on some children, it could be up to 10 grams, 10 paper clips worth. That's kind of nasty to think about. And adults, it's often a lot lower. But we have to be mindful that those other folks may be shedding this material. So let's look at this pool and let's think about the potential amount of load of fecal matter that could be getting shed into this pool. And there's a variety of videos like this that are out there of extreme pool crowding. Now, in the United States, this type of arrangement would not be permitted, and it probably isn't even permitted in Japan, but that's where this video was apparently recorded. But by regulatory perspectives, this would not be permitted. Pools have a capacity so that we can adequately treat the water so that we don't have an infectious disease risk. There have been a lot of studies that have been done on the quantitative evaluation of the bacteria released by swimmers into marine water as well as pools. So this is the amount released by adults and toddlers. There's also the risk, we know that, from animals too. So animals that might be on the shoreline, but we can discuss that more. And, to think that the U.S. is somehow unique, even I've been, able to do work. We had a big event that would happen at Ohio State where a lot of people would jump into the lake. So I'll pull up that video for you. So as I pull up the video, I also want to let you know that the university no longer allows this. You know, they also had to pay at least one family $450,000 for a death because they would have periodic deaths associated with people from injuries associated with this event. But I'll just let you get a visual of what's going on here. I'm going to turn the audio off on the video. See, there was snow and ice on the ground and everything. And we've measured the water quality in the lake at the various times in the water, and you know, it's as you would expect, like off the charts for fecal bacteria and so forth. People track stuff in off their feet. People were tracking stuff from the bars. People are, you know, not everybody that's coming in there is drunk or anything like that. There are people that just were doing it for fun without any substances. But anyways, yeah, the fecal bacteria levels were extremely high, and there would often be a little spike in illnesses associated with this event. All right, stop. So to wrap up this first video, we're going to do a quick review on maybe the first 4 questions. So you should be familiar with, what does the term AGI mean? So what does AGI mean? So acute gastrointestinal illness. Number 2, what is an RWI? So what does that acronym represent? In this case, we're talking about recreational water illness. And then you should be able to list at least 4 or 5 of the common symptoms or conditions associated with an RWI. And then, what are the sources of the contamination? I just gave you some examples. Where is the swimming pool contamination coming from? So that's just another example. And then other questions that might be able to be derived from this first section. What time of the year do we see the highest amount of water-related illness from swimming? Highest frequency of RWIs. So that would be like the summer months, particularly July. And then the last question is, should a person ever swim if they've had a recent history of diarrhea? And the answer is obviously no. So I'll stop there. We're going to move into the next video on rec water illness.